can't hear you. Repeat the last command. We are taking...
Loader, armor piercing. Traverse left, steady, fire.
The first warning is a sheet of earth falling from the bunker ceiling. It patters down across the table map, across tin mugs of cold tea, across the major's hands. Then the sound hits. A single artillery round is never just a sound. It's a rip in the air, a pulse in the chest, a tiny moment of silence as everyone listens, hoping the next one isn't closer. This one is close. Major Ivan Sokola flinches as the dugout shakes, lamps swinging, dust sifting in curtains from the logs overhead. The roar rolls away into the night outside, chased by others. Then the field in front of Kursk lights up. The horizon, a low dark line of steppe, flickers, then blooms as German guns along the whole arc open fire. For a breath, the sky is alive with muffled flashes. "Here we go," Captain Morozov says quietly beside him, hands steady on the table edge. 0 hour, Ivan. Ivan doesn't look away from the luminous dial of his watch. It is 2:20, 5th of July, 1943. For 3 months, his division has been digging, wiring, mining, covering every meter of ground in front of them, with something that kills. For 3 months, the reports have piled up on Stalin's desk in Moscow, telling him the Germans are massing armor, building up 9th Army to the north, 4th Panzer and 2 SS Panzer Corps to the south, packed tight against the bulge his armies hold around this ruined city. For 3 months, the men in this line have listened to the scream of distant train whistles and known they are coming here. Now the earth itself agrees. The dugout jolts again, this time with a deeper impact. They're ranging on the first belt, Morozov says. He's artillery liaison, lean dark circles under his eyes. Infantry trenches, forward batteries. Ivan finally lifts his eyes from the watch to the map. The map is a mess of pencil lines, red and blue, arrows and hasty annotations. Trenches like black scars, minefields blocked in with thick green shading. AT gun positions, MG nests, fallback points. His finger traces the salience curve. Somewhere behind that wall of dark, in a forest-ringed compound outside Moscow, Stalin has bent over the same map. Ivan knows because he has seen the stamped transcripts, the handwritten scrawls in thick blue pencil. He has decided to fight here, they said. Not to withdraw. We will let them break their teeth. Major the phone operator, Misha, pale under his steel helmet, holds the field telephone handset out. His other hand presses the headset tight to his ear. Division? Ivan takes the handset. The cord trembles slightly. A nervous animal. Sokolov static. Then the familiar rasp of Colonel Petrov, divisional artillery. Listen carefully, Ivan. They're hitting the whole front. 9th Army in the north, 4th Panzer in the south. Our sector's one of the main axes. Expect heavy armor. I want your guns alive at first light. Do not let them draw you into counter-battery duels yet. Save shells for tanks. Understood. Understood, Ivan says. His mouth is dry. And Ivan, Petrov adds, a rough softness in his voice. We knew this was coming. We prepared for it. Don't forget that when they start to look bigger than the earth, the line clicks. Outside, the German barrage intensifies, a million fists punching the soil. Ivan ducks through the dugout entrance, up the earth steps, into the black air. The night is alive with red. Flares hang, drifting, casting a sickly light over the first trench line. Shells land in white-hot blossoms, flinging dirt and men. The smell is a choking mix of explosive, raw soil and the faint, sour tang of fierce sweat. Behind the forward trench, between strips of scorched steppe and the second line, Ivan's anti-tank guns crouch under camouflage nets and hasty log roofs. Can see the dark shapes now. The low barrels of 57mm SIS-2 guns. The thicker forms of 76.2mm SIS-3S, muzzles depressed. Each one dug into a scraped-out pit. Round them, their crews are shadows. Helmets move, cigarettes glow and vanish. Someone retches in the ditch. A shell lands a little too close. The blast slams into his chest, drives the air from his lungs. He tastes dust and cordite. "Get down, Comrade Major," a voice yells. He drops instinctively into the nearest gun pit, boots sliding on the damp earth. The crew packed into the hole stare at him, wide-eyed. Private Kalia, 2 young freckles invisible in the red glare, clutches the breech lever like a lifeline. "You boys ready?" Ivan asks, forcing his voice to sound normal. As ready as any fools who stayed in this salient, the gun sergeant, an older man with a face carved by frost and sun, mutters. Ivan claps him on the shoulder and pulls himself up again. Beyond their position, beyond the anti-tank belt, beyond mines and wires and ditches, out there in the darkness still untouched by the fire, a huge armored fist is drawing back. Weeks ago, in Moscow, in a smoke-fogged room under high ceilings, Stalin had frowned at a different faint light. A desk lamp, yellow, harsh. Under it, on the polished wood, lay 2 papers. One was a report from the GRU, the Red Army's military intelligence. The other, a British MI6 summary, frowned upon but read. Both spoke of the same thing. The Germans were planning a massive operation, codenamed Citadel, to pinch off the salient around Kursk. One particularly bold agent in Switzerland, codenamed Lucy, claimed to have seen parts of the German plan itself. Stalin's mustache twitched as he read. Gukov stood opposite, boots planted, hands behind his back, face granite. "We have confirmation from our own reconnaissance as well," Gukov said. "Rail movements, new tank concentrations. Panthers, Tigers. They are bringing their best here." Stalin's eyes moved across the map on the wall. Kursk, a bulge into the German gray. With pincer arrows drawn by some staff officer sketched in, red counters showing Soviet armies layered deep. "How many men?" Stalin asked quietly. Vasilevsky, head of the general staff, replied without checking his notes. "On our side, in and around the salient, including Central, Voronezh, and steppe fronts, over 2 million. With reserves committed, closer to 2.5. If we include rear echelons, air, support, nearly 3 million, and the fascists." Stalin murmured. "Perhaps 800,000 to 1 million, Zhukov said. "Many tanks, many guns, fewer men. They cannot match our manpower any longer." Stalin tapped ash into a tray. "Comrade Zhukov," he said, voice slow. "Your proposal?" Zhukov didn't flinch. "Allow them to come," he said. "We have time. We know the direction. We dig in. We create defensive belts. Mines, guns, trenches, depth. We bleed them dry against us. When their armored spearheads are blunted, we strike with our reserves. Defense." Stalin's eyebrow arched. Zhukov met his gaze. "A defensive battle. Of annihilation," he said. "Not a retreat. Behold here, Comrade Stalin. We do not give up Kursk. We turn it into a trap for their armor and their elite infantry. Our tanks and guards armies wait behind. When they are weak, we counterattack everywhere." He jabbed a thick finger at the map. "Here, here, here." Stalin leaned back. For months, he had been suspicious of warnings. In 1941, when the spies in British had told him the Germans were about to attack, he had snarled at them, refused to believe, ordered no mobilization. He had seen where that stubbornness had led bleeding armies, Kyiv and Vyazma, 1 million men in pockets. Now the reports came again, but this time they spoke not of a new onslaught from nowhere, but of a last, desperate German attempt to regain the initiative. He could have pulled back from Kursk, straightened the line, but that would have given the Germans space and saved their tank armies. Better, he thought, to feed them meat. His generals watched his face, the twitch of the eyelid, the draw of the mouth. He took a long drag on his pipe, exhaled slowly, smoke curling. "Very well," Stalin said. "You have your defensive battle, Georgy Konstantinovich. I will give you the men, the guns, the time. Dig. Lay mines. Bring up guns from Moscow if you must. Make the fascists pay for every step." He shifted his gaze back to the papers. 3 million men, he said softly. "We will seal them around Kursk. Germans, Soviets. Whoever survives will move the front west. Even now, in the flicker of German shells, that decision wrapped itself around Ivan like a cold cloak. He had read the order that came down from front headquarters, the one that had Stalin's personal note scrawled beside the typed lines. No step back from Kursk. Hold the salient. Turn it into a fortress. Enemy armor. Will be destroyed in your zones of fire. They had obeyed. He had watched men dig until their hands bled, until their shoulders blistered, until their eyes sunk. He had walked the length of his regiment's frontage as it grew from raw steppe into a machine. AT guns massed with brush and straw. Rifle pits with interlocking fields of fire. Maxim heavy machine guns mounted in bunkers, their water jackets filled. Tank ditches deep and wide enough to trap even a tiger. Mines, so many mines. They had laid the little discs and cylinders by hand, crawling on their bellies in the dead of night, careful with fuses. Anti-tank, anti-personnel, tripwires, belts, scatter. When they'd run low, trains from deeper Russia brought more. At first, men had grumbled at being used as sappers instead of shock troops. As the lines multiplied, as the belts went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5, they fell silent. They could feel the weight of the thing they were building. A trap that wrapped not just around the Germans, but around themselves. As well, they had no orders to withdraw. They would stand and fight, die in place if necessary. And above it all, unseen and far, Stalin read reports, nodded, and wrote, "Good," in thick blue pencil. A shell detonates directly over the trench, a high air burst. The shockwave slams Ivan against the bunker wall. Splinters of log rain down. Someone cries out, "Misha, quoi?" Ivan shouts. The telephone operator scrambles back to the set, wiping blood from a cut on his cheek. The lamp above the switchboard swings crazily, throwing thin shadows. "Lines to the first line are dead," Misha says, voice jittery. "I still have division." "Trying corps." "Forget corps," Ivan says. "Get first battery back." "I need to know if Captain Lebedev still has his guns." It takes minutes. Precious. Outside. The barrage lifts, moves backward. Heavy shells now pounding the second trench line. The lull in front is brief, electric. In it, Ivan hears another sound. An engine rumble, deep, compounded like distant thunder with teeth. Tank engines. He feels it through his boots. Positions. He roars, ducking out, and into the gun line. The gunners are already at their posts, every crew manning the shielded barrels. In the first light of false dawn, shapes emerge from the drifting smoke on the far side of the mine belts. Panzers. He sees the blunt, familiar snouts of Panzer IVs. Long-barreled skirts hung over their tracks. He sees other, unfamiliar shapes. Bigger. The long, predatory barrels of Tigers. The flat-faced, menacing slabs of Ferdinand's massive assault guns rolling forward like bunkers on tracks, hunting the northern sector. Here, in the central Voronezh front, he sees something else. A lower silhouette, wide turret mated to a long barrel with a double-baffled muzzle brake. Panther. He's heard about them. New German tanks. The answer to the T-34 with sloped armor and a gun that can kill anything the Red Army has at 2 kilometers. They move in line, turrets steady, tracks ripping grass. A pang of instinct pulls at him. Any sane man would back away. He has going off. Then the long, arched trajectories of 122 and 152 millimeter shells coming in. Indifferent. They straddle everything, friend and foe. A calculated decision somewhere, Stalin level 1. But made it field level now. Better to turn this knot of metal and men into a crater than let the Germans punch through here. Later, when reports come in, they'll count the guns firing, the rounds expended. They'll call it suppressive barrage. The captain's name might be mentioned at the end, posthumously. Right now, it's a man's voice, panicked and resolute, calling death onto his own head. Ivan looks at his own map, at his own shouted coordinates, and wonders how many of the dots he's had shelled had men he knows. By midday, it's over. Not cleanly. Not in some Hollywood slow motion, where one side suddenly flees and the other stands victorious on a hill. It ends in exhaustion and smoke. German tanks that can withdraw do so, backing over their own wrecks, engines smoking. Soviet tanks that can move, shuffle, tracks grinding, returning to rally points, some with only 1 or 2 crew members left. The fields south of Prokhorovka are a carpet of perf, are a carpet of steel. Later, someone will try to count. They'll say maybe 300 German tanks destroyed or damaged, maybe 400 Soviet. They'll argue. Ivan doesn't argue. He walks, 2 days after, boots stumbling in ruts, through the physical reality. A T-34 lies on its side, track thrown, a ragged hole in its hull. Flies cluster at the hatch. A Tiger squats in a crater, its gun barrel bent where an explosion beneath had flung it into the edge. He passes a small heap of charred bones in a German black uniform, the skull's teeth bared. He passes a Soviet tanker half out of a hatch, hands still gripping the rim, frozen in carbon. Behind him, trains of replacement tanks unload. Fresh crews hop down, shoulders hunched, eyes scanning, taking in the burnt wrecks with furtive glances. Beyond them, long columns of infantry tramp forward, dust-coated, rifles slung, marching west as the orders for the great Soviet offensives go out. Operation Kutuzov tears into the Urel salient. Operation Rumyantsev rolls toward Kharkov. The Germans, bled white at Kursk and Prokhorovka, cannot hold all the fronts. Stalin's trap has not been a neat box that slams shut at once. It has been a vast, grinding mill. It trapped not just the German armor, but his own men as well. No retreat. Fight where you stand. Die in place, if ordered. 3 million men, give or take, Soviet and German, had been sucked into the battles around this bulge infantry. Tankers, gunners, engineers, pilots, support troops. Now, the bulge's western edge begins to crumble, pushed by red arrows from maps into reality. In Moscow, in the same room, under the same yellow lamp, Stalin reads the Stavka summary. Enemy offensive near Kursk, repulsed. Our counteroffensives at Urel and Belgorod-Kharkov. Axis successful. Enemy armored reserves severely degraded. Strategic initiative now firmly ours. He reads the casualty figures, frowns, but does not linger. There is a separate stack for that, a different mental compartment. He notes the numbers of enemy tanks destroyed with more interest. Good, he murmurs. Very good. He draws on his pipe, then writes in the margin beside Zhukov's name. Well done. Continue. The line beneath his hand is smooth. It doesn't shake when he writes. On the Kursk step, Ivan's hand does shake as he unscrews the cap of his canteen. He drinks, lowers it, looks around. Every direction he turns, he sees the imprint of decisions made far away. Trenches, gun pits, burned-out panzers, shattered T-34s, piles of spent shell cases. He sees the trap he has inhabited, not as lines on a map, but as scars in the dirt. Captain Morozov limps up beside him, right arm in a sling from shrapnel. They say, Morozov says, squinting at the horizon where smoke still rises in greasy columns, that this was the turning point. That the fascists will never again take the initiative here. He shrugs. Maybe they're right. But I think about the man who drew the circle around Kursk on the map and decided, we will stand, we will not fall back, we will let them come to us. He read the warnings and still held. Everyone here. Ivan doesn't answer immediately. He kneels by the rusted hull of a Panther, hand resting on its torn plate. Inside, it still smells faintly of burned rubber and something else. He thinks of those other hands, German ones that had touched this metal, trusted it, cursed its breakdowns, fought inside it. He thinks of Kalia and the shot that found its seam. He thinks of Stalin's hand, heavy ring flashing, moving over a piece of paper, writing an order that had held all of them, Soviet and German, inside this vast, layered, killing ground. I'm just glad we're on the outside of the trap now, Ivan says at last, voice low. And not still inside it, waiting to see which way it springs. Morozov gives a humorless chuckle. You think we're outside? He asks. Ivan. He gestures west, where new orders are already arriving, where fresh operations are being plotted. We're just in a different part of it. Perhaps, Ivan thinks, the trap is the war itself. But he doesn't say that aloud. He stands, shoulders his rifle, and walks back toward the command post, where new maps already lie on the table under fresh dust. New pencil lines marking where men and machines will next be sent. And where some other hand far away will read the warnings and decide whether to hold, to advance, or to set another, larger trap.